Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Public Services. We will kick off today's agenda with apologies for absence.
I haven't received any, but councillors Margaret Duffy and Vista
Yeah, lovely. We will note those. Thank you. On to the minutes. To receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of March. Let's accept those for accuracy. I need a second.
I'll second that, Chair.
And to vote.
we need to find back then.
Yeah. Item number 3, Chairman's update. I think the substantive one is the Chair checking the police station visit today, so I will save that for further down the agenda. But my primary ones were just to reflect on the triumphant BE Day and East Court Live that kicked off a wonderful year. They were splendid, blessed with good weather, beautifully turned out, wonderfully run. So we're very grateful and very much look forward to the next East Court Live. So thank you again. Item number 4, to receive members' declarations of interest. Does anyone have anything to declare? Nope. In which case, Inspector Derrick, welcome. It's always a delight to have you here. I'm conscious that we will, item 6 is going to be our check and need visit, so we'll just have your report and then we will.
No problem. I've got some stats given to me by Andy for a comment, and what I wanted to get was highlights of East Grinstead themes for the last 3 months. My visits are about quarterly. I just didn't want to be a bit so. I'll give you the stats, some themes and some good jobs that we've done in the last 3 months, the amount of time cops are in East Grinstead. And then when I finish, I'll answer the question as always you will ask. So just to give you a flavour of what's gone on in East Grinstead, because as I say to everyone at this table, I've run 3 departments. One takes care of Haywards Heath, one takes care of Burgess Hill, and one takes care of East Grinstead. And I always say to all 3 of them, we must try harder for East Grinstead because it's furthest away. And I said it when Julie was here, and I say it to Sam, and we have a really good working relationship between my desk and this council. So they try really hard. We've just had a visit to the police station that's only resourced a couple of days a week. But what I wanted to do is to bring some reassurance to actually how many times police are in East Grinstead day in, day out. So I've had some analysis done over the last 3 months. Communities in East Grinstead called Sussex Police 1,896 times. So that's just short of 2,000 calls over 3 months from East Grinstead. That's about 21 calls a day made by members of the community. That is in comparison to the daily intake of calls for Sussex Police, which is about 1,600 to 2,000, 21 calls on East Grinstead. Of the 2,000 calls that we attended here over a 3-month period, 291 of them were category A incidents, which means a police officer car has to be here in less than 10 minutes. It means a full emergency. So 300 times in 3 months, cops were in this city on attending an emergency job. That's roughly about 3 per day for East Grinstead. Of the 2,006 calls, 112 were Cat B and 168 Cat C. So it's A, B, C, and as you can imagine, they get down in severity of calls. Of the 2,000 calls, 100 of them were domestic abuse incidents here in East Grinstead. So that'll be 100 cases that's been investigated by cops in mid-Sussex, whether they be uniformed police officers or detectives, and that'll be 100 families that have been supported by mid-Sussex Police. That's 100 domestic abuse cases. That is 27 less than the previous 3 months. It's gone down, which is pleasing to see. 707 of those 2,000 incidents were attended by police. So remember I said 300 were category A jobs. 707 of the 2,000 calls were actually attended in person by cops. So lots of calls are just passing on information, it doesn't require cops attending. But in the 3 months, 707 times cops come to this town to deal with the job. So that would have been 700 times they came to someone's house, 700 times they went to the police station, which has been out and done their paperwork, and 700 times that they've driven around this city. Of those 707 incidents, 95 were violent crimes, 113 were medical incidents concerns. So cops don't just go to what you perceive to be as police jobs, but sometimes if they have medical concerns and the medical services have got concerns about their own safety, we have to go with them as well. So we have other people's agenda to take care of as well as our own. 71 were suspicious acts, 38 were road-related incidents, and 33 were road traffic crashes. 19 were burglaries, and 32 were antisocial behaviour. The only number in all of that is the antisocial behaviour, which I'm surprised at, because antisocial behaviour is on the rise, but only on 32 occasions in 3 months to be attended to deal with. To give you some themes of what's going on with crimes and trends in this city, on the rolling year compared to last year, burglary for East Grinstead is down 25%, which is absolutely amazing. It's not all good news. Theft has gone up by 20% in East Grinstead. I'll give you some examples of why that might be. The disc reporting services have got a lot better, so we're encouraging shops to report thefts a lot more. Lots don't do it because they just take it as part of the loss of the stock in the store. To give you an example of how prolific theft can be, even in East Grinstead, we had a job that was brought to us via TikTok or Facebook about 2 weeks ago. It was a man that committed theft in the Marks and Spencer's BP garage on London Road. The video was about 2 minutes long, and he was stood, and you know how expensive Marks and Spencer's wine is, and he stands there and he puts about 15 bottles in a well-tapered jacket of wine, then picks up a huge pack of meat and then a bouquet of flowers and walks straight to the door. Of course, that got 30,000 views, so it come to the boss, to the chief principal, it come to the superintendent, it got to me, and the words were, get that man into custody. Within 24 hours, we'd arrested him. He lived opposite the BP garage. He was from Kingston. He lived with his girlfriend there. And within 48 hours, we charged him with 15 thefts from that store, over £2,000 worth of property, and we've seen him out of East Grinstead. So we're back in his feet in Kingston. So theft is up by 20%. Robbery is up by 21%, but that's only about 7 to 10 crimes. So don't be confused around the 20%. Sounds a bit serious. 3.4% reduction on possession of weapon offences and 11.7% reduction in recorded domestic abuse crimes. So even though we've been here 100 times in 3 months, that's about a 12% reduction. To give you some feelings of, because every time I come over, about 2 days before I start panicking and something, what's going on in these last couple of months? Some good news stories. About 2 weeks ago, 2 of my staff pulled a man off the bridge that where we've had a few suicides. They literally pulled him from the wrong side of the bridge and saved his life. We had the theft in the BP garage to Marks and Spencer's, and 30,000 views on this. If you research and look into it, just about Marks and Spencer's, it's nothing short of looting. And we had him in custody, and we've seen him out of East Grinstead, him and his partner. And a better news story, it won't sound so good, but I was just having a conversation with this chap down here about seizing cars that don't have any tax and insurance. It's a power police officers have, if the car's not taxed or got insurance, we can seize the car. It's a really powerful power to have. And there was a drug dealer in East Grinstead we watch a lot. We found him on the streets last week driving a car with no tax and no insurance, and he seized his car, which means now he can't drug deal. So whilst it's really hard to catch drug dealers doing what they do, there are other ways of demobilising their efforts and what they're doing in the city. Overall, East Grinstead remains a really safe place to live. There's some concerns there about crime trends going up and down. Mid Sussex is always at the lower end of the whole of Sussex. And Sussex is about halfway down the league tables of the whole of the United Kingdom. So it remains a really safe place. But of course, it has themes and things happening. 100 domestic abuse cases over 3 months. So things that you would never see, but of course we get calls to and go inside these people's houses every day and do it. So we really, regardless of the police station being resourced from the front office perspective 2 days a week, that police station was used 707 times. Different occasions by cops coming here on emergency calls. So we're really active in the city. I have a team that's dedicated to this city. And I always say, if Sam Haynes calls, never say no. So that's my policy. So we still continue to work really hard. You've got 9 months left of me, or disappear, and I'll be replaced. And while I sit in my chair, that will continue to be my motto. So that is my update. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, that was brilliant, really, really brilliant. I'm very grateful for the coming to us to do the stats, it's always very insightful.
I want to keep with those themes, so when I come back,
Yes.
it's refreshing, because it's helpful for you to see, because you'll remember, I would have said we've been here 100 times with domestic abuse, and you'll hear that that changes down.
Yes, I think that is very, very insightful, very useful for today. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I'm just intrigued, you mentioned the 300 category A that need to be attended within
Yeah,
10 minutes. How many were actually achieved within that 10 minutes?
I think our progression rate for getting within 10 minutes is about 90 to 100%.
Okay.
For the county.
I would be interested in East Grinstead, given
Yeah,
the
if it's not,
discussions
if
around
it's
the
not 10
police
minutes,
station, that would be useful.
if it's not 10 minutes, it's 11 minutes.
Okay.
It's not 10 minutes or 2 hours.
Fine.
A category A is a category A. A cop has to come here, blue lights, driving as fast as they can. So it's not 10, it's 10 and a half or 11. It's not 10 or 2 hours. So category A, if there was no local car to get here, the resource centre wouldn't stop until they found it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the concerns of residents, given the conversation about police station and they coming from the teeth of
Yeah, that's 300 times at those 2,000 calls made. But category A is a crime in progress. Effectively.
And that's one people.
Yeah, I mean, the drive here is quite long from Hayward. Sometimes there'd be cops here. The drive takes about 15 minutes on blue lights.
That's why I asked the question.
So yeah, 10 to 15 minutes that they'd be here if they weren't halfway here already. Usually the command centre for them to come from is Hayward, but actually the drive here on blue lights is quicker from Crawley. So the resource centre in Lewis won't ask the neighbourhood policing from East Sussex or the divisional response team to come from Hayward, they'll go straight to Crawley. So you actually get cops that come here that aren't responsible for this area because they're just close and they can get here faster.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of questions. So I would say that with the roadworks at Turner's Hill, I'm surprised that anyone can move anywhere between this area and
The highway.
the antisocial behaviour. I mean, that doesn't, if you like, that doesn't chime with what I as a councillor get coming in. So it's pleasing to hear it's lower, but is that some sort of lowering of the threshold on reporting that people are more tolerant of it?
It could be so. I mean, I would say that would be quite low for antisocial behaviour. It's quite consistent with the amount of what we do in Hayward and Burgess here as well. But like we just said at the police station, the more you call or report antisocial behaviour, the more will attend it. But the problem is people become almost immune or invisible to it. They just think, well, it happens every Friday, so what's the point of doing it? Now, there's not enough cops for me to put a cop on every corner, because that's what I love. That's what I would do. Cops. So police officers are intelligence led. And when I say intelligence led, what I mean is week by week basis, we look at what happens the previous weeks at certain times of the day. And the sergeant responsible for these is saying, we've had calls every Friday for antisocial behaviour for this park in East Grinstead. So that will drive the activity for the following Friday. So you must call. You can't call, press the buttons on the calling system. I mean, the 101, I know it's a bit sluggish, but there's an ASB online recording. So it's a bit like going to a smartphone on the Sussex Police website. You just press buttons or click buttons, ASB, where is it, what time? And that comes to us the same way.
Yeah. I think we've had a conversation before, because a lot of, if you like, the ASB that I get is to do with tenants disturbing other tenants. And as we talked about last time, that doesn't come within the police. The second one is that you didn't mention is speeding. Time and time again, residents complain to me about speeding on rat runs, and that just seems to be in the increase. I
did mention it because it's not my department deals with it. It's road safety policing. It's road policing has its own. We'll take it back.
It did. I mean, that's interesting in itself.
Yeah.
But
There's a
the
whole
split
unit
between the two.
of cops that deal with it.
Yeah. And I was going to add to that, that we're into the summer season, so you're into the motorbikes and the heroes with the
Yeah.
cars where the ignition's still, I don't know, how do you reset the ignition on a modern car, but they seem to be able to manage to do that, so it sounds like something fireworks going down the road. Thank you.
Any more? Yes, councillor Reddy.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that. Sorry, just carrying on from what Councillor Gibbs said. With that, cars with really noisy exhaust and stuff. If we report it to one, or what's the best thing to do? Because
It's a really, I mean, I can't give you a definite answer because some cars have the things allowed, but that won't be enforceable until the next MOT of the car. So police officers don't have powers to say you're exhausted. I think from I've never done road policing, but from my memory of speaking to colleagues, if they modify the exhaust, so it does something purposefully, then police have powers to deal with that. But if you talk to some cars have loud exhaust because they're older, it needs an MOT. There's nothing in legislation.
it's not
And
that
that's an exhaust. Yeah. If it has something where it's been modified
Yeah.
to, do like a firing noise and like that, then I couldn't. I think that most issue would intervene. But like anything with East Grinstead, I've never said no to anyone this stage. And I've never said no matter what the crime or the nuisance type was. But unless we're told about it, then just assume we don't know.
I'd like to echo the thoughts on antisocial behaviour. It's certainly one that we hear quite a lot. It's people that come to us with sort of, I say general gripes, and I don't mean that to be dismissive of them, but concerns about noise or people out and about late at night in places that they don't think is appropriate or indeed safe for anyone. So I think it's important that we encourage people to report those.
Of course.
So the most appropriate one is 101.
Well, it's 101
Yeah.
if you want to call, but the Sussex Police Reporting System website, if you go into Sussex Police online, it will say what you want to speak to us about, and you can pick, it gives you a list of about 20 different crime types. One of them is antisocial behaviour. You just press that button, it will say where is it happening, you put your details in, and it just give it a report, because if you could put 101, all the person's going to do is fill in those
Finish
boxes for you. It's a really easy, smart, phone way of reporting something. And you can report every single crime type, drug dealing, antisocial behaviour, anything.
Brilliant. Well, that is, I think we're all very grateful for the reminder. That comes to us a lot. I guess the other one I just wanted to, was more of a comment than a question, I guess, is it's always fabulous to have all the numbers, and I'm conscious that you are hugely busy. Important, I think, to reflect that there are people in that. So the individual,
Absolutely.
John Bridge,
The 100,
the domestic abuse. I mean, it's numbers when we read them like this.
that's 100 families that cops would have been inside. It was not just doing the domestic abuse, it was filling in child coming to notice reports because there's a child there, vulnerable adult forms, lots of paperwork. And some of those domestic abuse may be in that cops investigation train for 6-12 months, getting the offender to court and go on and on. So that happened 100 times. And we can, when we go to domestic abuses, it's never a thing we can go and say we're not doing anything. The cops are forced to arrest, they're forced to do something. If a cop goes to a domestic abuse in East Grinstead, they get there and they don't want to leave without a prisoner, they have to call the duty inspector to say, these are my circumstances. I can't arrest someone. Can I leave? The inspector will say yes or no.
And a final one, my twins are at the nursery on London Road, Town Tigers, and they had the police come in this week to tell everyone about what they are doing and how you be a policeman and all the important jobs they do. So I'm very grateful as well, I guess, the sort of added educational piece that we do, and they had a great day. So thank you again for that. Any final questions? No, lovely.
Inspector Derek, thank you so much again for coming in, making the time. Fantastic report, great stats actually, and it's really great. We've got more members of the public in here tonight. I know it's to do with speeding, so it's kind of related. That's great. It's great that they can witness. The police, the town council historically have a fantastic relationship through the clerk with Sussex Police. And Inspector Derek is our main contact. So it's really, really great that he comes in every 3 months, or ad hoc if incidents arise. So we hugely appreciate it. Please pass that thanks on to the whole of your team.
Thank you.
And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mindful, we are also going to talk about the station visit next, so more police still to come. But thank you again for your, thank you.
No worries.
So item 6, the Chequermead police station visit. We all came, almost all of us came directly from there to public services. We're very grateful. Inspector Derek showed us around. I think we found it very useful and informative. Not everyone had had a chance to look behind the scenes at the police station. I wondered if anyone had any comments or questions. I personally found it very useful. I don't think I was of the view that it wasn't an excellent facility, but I think it's always a good reminder to see what a tremendous asset it is. You did pose some good questions, I think, about staffing and resourcing, so I'm sure we will come on to those in our discussion. But over to you.
Before I say anything else, I suppose I would declare interest as a trustee of Chequermead, and the police are tenants of Chequermead. Yes, it's the first time I've been in there since it was converted. I went in there when it was part of the theatre in the past. It's very good to see. Modern office facility, basically. As we were told when we went there, it's not for anybody to be taken back to if they've been arrested. It's for the police to use for admin purposes and the front desk when it's open. So yes, I'm looking forward to the results. We were wondering about that over the last few months, haven't we?
Yes.
Within these 4 walls, over whether or not the police would be moving out and trying to make sure that we had decent presence within town. So looking forward to see what the PCC comes up with and the Chief Constable after their review was concluded.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's right. I think wouldn't be untoward to say, I think everyone's primary concern was making sure we have boots on the ground, to use the sort of trendy phrase, more police in town, more presence, more visibility, and the police station, the physical asset, is obviously an important part of that. So, on the agenda. Any further comments?
I think it's just a very useful visit, and it's a follow-up from the Police and Crime Commission. Members of the public, councillors went to view the police contact centre, which is at Chequermead. You look at Chequermead on the left-hand side. It's a fantastic facility inside. It was converted 8 years ago under a joint venture between the Town Council, Chequermead Trust, Chequermead Charity, and Sussex Police. And the Sussex Police rent it. The building is actually owned by the Town Council.
Yeah.
But it is operated by Chequermead Trust. So it's a genuine joint venture, which was fairly groundbreaking 8 years ago. And the Town Council have been in discussions with the Police and Crime Commissioner, Katie Bourne, to ensure that that facility remains having a police presence in East Grinstead for the future. So that's really what the context and background for those that aren't aware from the reports and the agenda items. So I think what we really need to do is, which we will do, is monitor it closely through the town clerk and press for that letter in writing from the Chief Constable and the Police and Crime Commissioner, that what I've just said will come to fruition.
Quite right. Yes, there were some actions broadly from the meeting, which were obviously a broader review of policing and resourcing in the town, which will take place over the summer, a commitment to what should we say, leaning to the existing facilities to make sure that they're appropriately resourced. There was a reflection that hadn't been the case for some time, and that they were going to look to correct that. And I think an action for us as a collective was to better promote and make people more aware of the asset that we do have and the facilities that we do have there. There was talk about signposting, better signposting in the town, which the police were keen to do. So some good actions, I think we have to make sure we stay on top of that. And we don't have any firm deadlines at this stage, so we will be with great haste. Yeah. Without further ado then, on to our next guest, Rachel. Meals on Wheels, welcome.
Hello everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming today just to let you know a bit more about Hills and the Meals and Wheels service in East Grinstead and the whole of West Sussex. So Hills stands for Health and Independent Living Support. We're a charitable social enterprise based up in Hertfordshire. And about 2.5 years ago, we came down to West Sussex when, I don't know if you know of Appetito. The Appetito pulled out the service contract, and Hills up in Hertfordshire have a large Meals and Wheels presence out there, so they brought the service down here, and now we're in Hampshire as well. So we're the UK's largest not-for-profit Meals and Wheels service. So the food itself is still Appetito, that's what they excel in. They're food producers at the end of the day. They produce hospital, care home food, nurseries, Wiltshire farm foods. So you know that the product is very good, it's all nutritional value, and it gets picked up in Trowbridge in Wiltshire, and then it gets frozen and then delivered to Climping in Ford, and then we have a depot in Horsham, Age UK Centre at the Vineyard House. And then from there we cook the meals up, and then they go out in our cars in electric hot boxes, so they're nice and hot for our clients to enjoy. Our main aim is to help people to live at home as long as they like. A lot of people want to stay at home, want to keep their independence, so having services like Meals and Wheels coming in, and that really does help support people in their own homes. And I have got some impact reports here as well, which you might like to take away just to see the impact that we have. We have high numbers of people who feel less isolated, people that have visited the GP less. So all food and nutrition always links into the health and wellbeing of residents in the area. Our mission really is to get more people to know about us. Too many people don't really know that the service is here. And the service itself, it's a tube called delivered into our client's home. It can be 7 days a week, it can be once in a blue moon. A lot of people have it when they come out of hospital, they might have it for a few days to help someone's recovery. And we're there really it is mainly elderly and vulnerable, but we also have a lot of people who are younger who need the service as well. And anyone can have it. So we could all order Meals and Wheels, but we'd have to pay a higher price, so it's at £10.99. But if you receive a package of care from the council, if you receive attendance, carers, disability or living allowance, or if you're just 65 and over long-term medical condition, struggling to cook, you can receive it for the £8.99. And these are delivered by our community team members. An important part of their role is to do a safe and wellbeing check. So we're not just delivering a meal, we're actually having eyes around making sure that people are okay. And if we do have any concerns, we always let the next of kin know or signpost them to another service. So all the services all work together because we have one aim to help people, like I say, stay at home longer and hopefully not end up in a care home or like a facility. It really does help support them. And we also do tea packs as well, so cold dishes as well, so sandwich, green tea, or a sandwich, dessert and snack, and that's delivered with a hot meal popped into the fridge. And we can cater to anyone's diet, so whether there's fat, there's salt, there's sugar, we can have texture modified meals, have being kosher, so anyone's diet we can help support them. And yeah, so I just wanted the opportunity to let you know if there's any sort of engagement that you know we can get involved with. Just like I say, a lot of the time I see people they say, oh, I wish I had known about you when I came out of hospital, especially. Or it could be a care as well. A lot of carers are struggling. The unpaid carers are really struggling at the moment. And it just gives someone's a bit of respite. So someone can have a bit of support. Maybe they want to go out for lunch and they don't want someone to come in and supply food. They just want to rest from cooking because they're overwhelmed. It's a service that anyone can use. So I just want to sort of broaden the sort of thing about Meals and Wheels that it's not just for older people, it is for anyone, and it's just there to support people. And that's about it. Any
question. Actually, I have a couple of questions there. Do you know how many people in East Grinstead we support?
It sort of goes up and down, but in East Grinstead, it's probably between 25 and 30. So we've probably got around, so we do, mainly East Grinstead and then Crawley and the
Yeah, brilliant. And if someone was listening in to today and they thought to themselves, well, that sounds like a brilliant idea, really do with some help, as you mentioned, how do they come to you?
Well, anyone can refer, so you can refer a neighbour, you can refer a friend, or the client can refer themselves. You can give us a call on our telephone number, or you can visit our website, which is www.hills-uk.org. And then on there we have an online referral form, but obviously if people want to phone up, they can. And we can usually set the service up quite relatively quickly. We do like 12 hours notice, but if you put a request in by about 1 o'clock today, we should get someone on the next day. And it's really flexible. So say if someone had a meal booked for today, but they fancy going out for lunch, or they weren't going to be in to receive their meal, because that's another thing, we have to see our client. If we don't see our client, then we have to find out where that person is. So it's that out of safeguarding. But you can cancel up until 9:30 in the morning to cancel your meal that day. So there's no contract, so people have it as and when they need it, or they can have 7 days a week entirely to them. But yeah, give us a call, or like I say, anyone can refer anyone. That's what you do.
Questions from colleagues? Yes.
Just out of interest, I mean, you mentioned calling several times, but I mean, how much is there sort of a digital dimension to this as well? Is this something, because I mean, one of the interesting areas is just how older people can actually manage, whether or not they're disadvantaged as a result of, being older than able to work with digital devices.
Oh yeah, no, they can give us a call and we do it.
You do it over the
Yeah,
phone, that's
we do
your
understand.
preferred.
A lot of the time it is next of kin that refer someone, so they do it online, but we do take calls as well, and we can go through the details with them and the menu. So they have 5 options to choose from a day of meals, so it's quite a selection, and that's a 4-weekly rolling menu as well. There's a lot of choice, and so our drivers quite happy to go through menu, talk over the phone. The digital aspect is mainly for professionals. We like healthcare professionals to do it online, because it's a bit more easy. We gather the information we need, whereas the client themselves will call up and then we just take.
It sounds like there's a strong social sort of element to this, in that I'd imagine that in some instances, and probably the person who's bringing the meal might be the only person that the recipient actually gets to talk to. So.
Yeah, I mean, we also try to keep the same sort of drivers for the clients, so they get to know them, the driver gets to know the client, so we can spot any usual signs. I mean, say someone had a bad eye and our driver spots that, we can get help seen to them quicker. Instead of that sort of deteriorating and getting worse and worse, that person being seen. There's a lot of benefit from having eyes on our clients, making sure that they're okay. And a lot of our clients really enjoy having someone come in and see them. I'm just going to have a look at the impact. So we do an impact report. I'll leave them with you, but it just shows you like there's usually about, sorry, I wanted to share them with you. So clients told us that 97% felt their life was made easier by having Meals on Wheels, 96% felt happier, 96% better nourished, 95% more secure. So someone's a frequent caller, just having that sense that someone's going to be coming in to see them in the morning. 92% felt healthier, 91% actually felt more independent. So it's not like we're taking someone's independence away, we're just supporting them so they don't get any worse. And 87% recovered from a period of ill health with her. And 86% felt less lonely, because again, they are the only people that our clients may see. So it's got real good social connection, and they really do enjoy our drivers and having to see them.
I suspect a good challenge for us would be, how do we help you make more people aware of it and more giving it more profile? Perhaps I'm sure we can find other people who would benefit from those wonderful stats. So I don't know whether that would be an action for Alice to pick up.
Yeah, we already have your leaflets on our community desk in the library, so we do share your information already, but if you've got anything else, do let me know.
Okay, yeah, brilliant, thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. You're very welcome to head off. I'm conscious that you have a long drive ahead of you, so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Ray.
Item number 8, the one to which I think everyone is keen that we get cracking on. To consider the request for support for the application to West Sussex County Council for implementation of 20-mile-an-hour zone on West Street, the West. We've all received the report. There have been some email exchanges from Councillor Jackie Russell as well with thoughts and feedback. We're very grateful for the comments and questions at the beginning. I don't know if anyone would like to kick us off with any opening comments. Yes, the one it.
Yeah, as one of the ward councillors, I may as well kick off. It's clearly a dangerous stretch of road, particularly the turn off for West Lane. And it must be said, probably even worse, maybe the turn off for what's going to be a nursing home at the top of the road as well. That turn off there does worry me with the amount of traffic that may come there. People who are not so used to the road either, not so used to the nature of the problem. From, as you say, from halfway up the road, but certainly from just below West Lane to the junction with Queen's Road, it's particularly dangerous. Even coming out of West Lane yesterday, the visibility when you're trying to see who was coming up the road is almost impossible. Almost impossible. So it certainly has my whole heart because it's a place that is quite dangerous to get out of, and anybody trying to sort of cross over on foot, walking from West Lane to get into town, it's quite a dangerous situation. So, yeah.
Thank you, yes. Any more from you?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, generally, I'm not a fan of 20 minutes, I have to say, as an active motorist, self-addressed petrol head, I'm against. I don't think it's worked in Wales at all, and that they went to it and it's not worked. However, in the 14 years I've been a councillor in this chamber, I think the gentleman in the corner not only made the most elegant case for the 20-mile-an-hour limit that I've heard, and you've completely convinced me. I know the road very well. Obviously, I agree with Councillor Barney. So you've converted me, sir. So I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you. Contrary to Councillor Whitaker, I am a strong supporter of 20-mile limits, and in particular, I believe that there should be every residential district would be. I mean, the stats on just accidents speak for themselves. But a couple of observations just to think about with this, and certainly from the training which I've had as a county councillor in terms of this, there is only a 50% success rate in applications for 20-mile-an-hour limits, and I think that needs a bit of thought about how this can be supported. And basically, some of the key issues are you have to have a sense of moving into a more urban area as you cross into the 20-mile-an-hour limit. So I think there's sort of some thoughts within that. You're going down a hill, there's no excuse for exceeding the speed limit, but doubtless that plays into it as well. I also sit on Turners Hill Parish Council, and we've been trying for some time to get 20 miles an hour in the main area of that village, and there have been difficulties with both of those issues. At what point are you entering the actual built-up area of the village? You have to get that well defined. Now, I accept that once you get to the top end, and as you go past the library and the rest of it, then you run more obviously into that. There needs to be some work on accident stats. A lot of people, I mean, I'm sure there's been lots of near misses and the odd coming together in terms of turning out to West Lane. But are the stats there in order to support that? Because generally people don't report it, and therefore it doesn't show up. I wonder, have we ever put a SID on West Hill?
think we have.
In which case, we as a council might actively support this by putting it down there. We can't because obviously,
They're fixed locations.
of
And it's
course, they are,
considered-
you put
Well,
them on
the-
fixed location,
The
don't you?
6 that we have are not supported by highways to have on their street furniture and the lamppost because they're too heavy, which is why we went through all of that of putting the fixed sockets in the locations that we have. So unless a lighter weight one is purchased at some point, it's not possible to put
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, there must be lots of S106 monies around which would be from it. And there's people understand the S106 monies, the TAD, which I think the total something, but I can never understand what TAD stands for. But what total something?
Access demand.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? Well done. West Sussex loves spending that on our behalf. And I think that there's always a case for us to say, well, you know, we should have one of the lightweight ones because this would play much better if there was evidence, you know, just of what the speeding was doing. Yeah, totally in favour of it. I would like to see much more in you know, sort of in that. And of course, if you drive in London these days, large areas are very much within that. And I'm not sure. I mean, these things take a long time as well. I think I'm just about getting a simple thing like double yellow lines in that I started 2.5 years ago. And that's just paint on the road. And the other thing is that, of course, I've heard several times, and I should be cautious because, of course, I am a member of part of the planning process for Mid Sussex. There is a planning application. There is no guarantee of anything being built in anything whatsoever, and therefore there is no guarantee of S106 monies for it. But from the numbers that I see, there is plenty of money around for this. So there would be no need to wait until the developer is forced to cough up his S106 money on that, and we should perhaps bear that in mind as well, so it can be done more quickly. And I have sympathy for the residents of West Hill simply because your view was wrecked by that awful development on the other side of the hill, which was imposed by the Secretary of State, Sajid Javid, and he should be taken out and shot. That's another thing.
No, thank you. I think there are lots of really good points actually. So that was hugely helpful and yeah, noted.
Yeah, so just to reinforce a couple of points there. So firstly, totally agree with the Sid. I think this is all about stats and this is all about data. Just a quick Google, 2 hours before I came in, went on Crash, whatever it was called, something.net, which shows the stats for that area. Now, we all know it will be underreported. I think this is one of the challenges around getting the appropriate, but it doesn't show that many accidents in 25 years. 33 results, and this includes other roads off of that, by the way. The fast junk is at the roundabout, unsurprisingly, with some of the top actually on that stretch. And this is the problem. The stats are not showing that many incidents. So I do wholeheartedly support that if we are just, you know, if this is to be successful, we need to have more evidence and therefore a speed indicator device. Plus, and again, this is off, who knows how accurate this is, crashback.co.uk for those that want to look at it. I'm sure there may be a way of getting more accurate or more extensive data than this. So that'd be point one. The other point to note is I'll make sure that that's done after, or if, and I believe it has been, but on the portal it didn't look like it had been approved for the, is it Highlands? I forget what the name of the Highfield West Hill application. I'll make sure again, completely up to residents and obviously, but it might be worth waiting till that is in situ so that the statistics show the frequency of traffic. And I know there's always this, we want to prevent accidents, but also we need to have a body of evidence to support the need for that. So that would just be one point. The other one is just to sort of, I'm just wondering whether a 20 mile an hour will solve the problem. I've lived in East West all my life. I live around the corner, that's my road, so I frequently go up West Hill. I'm just wondering, if there was a 20 mile an hour, would it really slow people down? Like, let's be honest here. Would it really solve the problem? I'm not saying it wouldn't help, but I do wonder whether a speed camera or something else, and I know we couldn't have speed hump, whether it would actually help, because ultimately we're here about making that road safer. So I don't know the answer. The question is, would a 20 mile an hour actually solve the problem? because I would put money on the fact that the people that are exceeding 30, or the issue is actually people exceeding 30, and if there was a 20, they'll still exceed 20. So would it make it any safer if it was just 20? So I do think there's a combination here about, is it just putting a 20 in, or is it a number of things, whether it's a speed indicator device, whether it's a speed camera, in conjunction with 20 mile, or maybe instead of a 20 mile hour, because we're looking to resolve it. And then just a word of unintended consequences. If you are having people going up that hill in 20 and they have a petrol car, it's going to be noisy. So I just want to make everybody aware you're going to have residents, some residents may not be particularly happy, particularly at the lower end of that, where people are coming off that roundabout, accelerating and maintaining 20 miles an hour. So just something to be considered. But yeah, I'm broadly supportive, but I just think, I'm just not sure a 20 mile an hour will solve the problem we're trying to solve.
That's very helpful. I mean, I think it's really good to both hit some of the practicalities, the time frame, and clear evidence is crucial. It's always important as well to challenge the proposal. I am supportive of 20 miles an hour. I think not least the development that is already on the books, such as it is for the care home, but we're also, I think, all aware that there may well be changes to the car park, to the main shopping centre. There's likely, in the fullness of time, that road to become very, very much more busy. And I think there is a good challenge as to whether 20 miles an hour as a whole, as a policy, does slow people down. But I don't think that should dissuade us in this occasion from supporting this proposal. If anything, I think it would be an opportunity for us to look at other traffic calming proposals and ones as opposed to I'm sure there's opportunity to see what else we can do. But I also think an obvious one to reflect on is that the residents themselves will have made a judgment as to whether or not they think the noise from 20 miles an hour is something that they are happy to put up with accordingly, and whether or not they think that slowing traffic down will in fact make it safer. It is your road, you live there, so that for you to determine. So I would add my support to that. I suspect then our actions will be a letter in support, and perhaps anything else we can do to help add evidence. I would suggest perhaps it's something that we can take away and mull over, because it's not something we can do with our SIDS, perhaps, because we can't move those, but I'm sure collective efforts we might be able to.
So let's be clear, we can put the SID if we get a post installed that can support the weight.
Absolutely.
So let's just be clear, it's not that we can't use one of our SIDs there, there's just currently not a place to attach it.
That is right, but we can't at the moment.
We cannot at the
take that
moment with
away and review a new SID post, which I don't think is in the room to today's discussion. So we will review how we can help evidence through the case if that's.
I believe the lighter weight SIDs that can be moved around don't actually have the data recording
It's a
facility.
challenge for them.
So it would need to be a heavier one.
We will, let's reflect on that, because I think that will take more time. Any further comment or closing remark? No. If you would like to escape after this one, you'd be very welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I forgot the important bit. Right, I propose that we support the proposal for 20 miles an hour, and I recommend that we write a letter in support and that we look into the evidence base. I guess I can do
Second action.
all those in favour? Thank you, and for the reminder. Sorry for not doing the vote. In which case, if you'd like to go, otherwise we will continue with our agenda.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you again.
Simple until as well. The guy who wants it just puts it on.
Don't worry.
He doesn't care.
And it records.
Yeah, but that's the heavy one.
It's not heavy.
Well, for whatever reason, we get
It's an
things
awful-
told.
It's not.
I've put it in myself, Vicarage Road. He's going to Bolton for a lamppost.
Thank you.
What's going to happen?
Right, item 9, No less important, application to stop up highway adjacent to Beeching Way, Laurel Dean, East Grinstead. We have the letter. The decision has been made. I think this is just a discussion of comments relating to the statement. We had a further letter, we requested a further letter just clarifying what stopping up actually meant in practice. I thought I'd hand over to the town clerk just to elaborate on that.
I don't know if I've seen it.
Well, in which case, as far as I can determine, is they're simply not going to maintain it. They're not actually going to block it up. It's not actually going to have any. It's just not going to be maintained as a highway now. I'll pop down there. I don't see that to be a problem. I'm not aware that anyone has raised any issues in relation to the agenda. But yes, they have written a letter to us confirming that is in fact.
So I think it's just a note, isn't it?
It's just a note to tell us that's what they're doing. So just to note.
Just a note.
Yeah, I was confused and I haven't had a chance to go down there. Certainly, it would just be a note to say, have all the residents been notified? Because although it is from the Laurel Dean house who's applied for this, I would assume, but very much assumptions, that the actual residents have been consulted that also live along there in relation to that being maintained.
It's a very good question. I'm not aware, if I'm honest, I'm not aware of what action has been taken to let residents know. Otherwise, just to note.
Noted.
Long time since I've been down there. So. It's not very
Right, item 10,
yeah.
community team report, over to Alice.
Thank you very much, Claire. So I've just noted most of my reports for noting, just an update on Sunnyside Barn. Hiring is a little bit down than it has been, so we're going to carry on promoting that. So please help us spread the word. Farmers Market is doing well. We've got our 7 regular stalls. Our SIDS have been on Lincoln Road and Escort Drive for the last 3 months. Got a bit of an issue downloading the data, but as soon as that's been done, they'll be moving to Woodbury Avenue and Herrington Drive. Pub Watch is back in action, which is good. They're meeting every month. We've got a few people on East Grinstead Pub Watch. Disc has been very useful for that, so that all the bar staff can see who is on the pub watch. Our desk in the library is going well, lots of inquiries there, and we're doing a lot more social media as well. Sunnyside Youth Club is going really well. Oversubscribed, so we've moved it to the 2 groups, as I know you all know, and we've got lots of different activities happening. And the fact that this is going so well and lots of requests has kind of prompted discussions for having another youth club, which was always mentioned at the beginning. It was always Sunnyside will hopefully just be the first stage. So I'm coming to committee to ask about setting up a second youth club at the King's Centre for an older age group, 13 plus. Which was approved in principle at the last committee, so I've just come back with some costings in the report to ask if that can come from our budget.
Yeah, so just in case anyone has missed it, that is on page 3 of Alice's report. There's a nice, useful table with all the costings, and I think it is going to be for us to decide whether we're going to recommend that.
Yeah.
As you have to take forward for this year's budget, that's the ask, is it not? So the amount would be £7,696.80. I am very happy to propose that.
I'll second that, Chair. Just to confirm, that's in the current year's budget, Town Clerk?
Yeah.
In this committee,
This committee doesn't have a budget.
that's what I thought.
No, but this is the weird thing about this committee in that it doesn't have a budget, but it has this.
So it takes something
Well, yeah, it would basically come from reserves. But what we're asking is that this committee, as they receive the youth updates, recommend that this funding be provided.
Yeah, it's a recommendation that we're voting on rather than the actual.
Yeah, and we will resolve it at the
So second, actually.
Any sort of comments?
Just before you do take a vote on this, if I can just sort of raise a small amount of humbug to this.
Of course.
Right, I've mentioned Worth before, and the costs definitely got out of control in Worth. And that was the problem, and it came down to that every child's session was costing 50 quid. Right, and so I think that does, there needs to be some element of making sure that this is cost effective within this, as we're not asking for any payment within it. I mean, I'm fully in favour of providing the service. I just think we need to make sure that, sort of we are, following this through in terms of the numbers going through, the numbers of sessions and so on.
I totally agree, and I think it works out between about £5 and £7 a head.
Yeah.
And if we base it on the Sussex Clubs for Young People, when they were running it, it did take a bit of time to build up the numbers, but then they were at 25 every single week. And it was always full, so I do feel that we would be able to fill it.
Yeah.
I have been speaking to Worth about what they do, getting advice, speaking to them, talking to them about sharing possible youth workers and things like that. So yeah, we're definitely sharing and learning from each other.
That's good.
What is the number, the ideal number to avoid the £50 a head kind of scenario? How many people would we hope to use this?
25 weeks
25.
is kind of what we're basing it on two youth workers.
And 40 weeks a year or something like that.
Well, there's options at the moment. It's costed to be term time only because that's the availability of the room at the King Centre. But they're in full support, and if they have availability of other rooms and there is demand, they would like to support us with that. And they want to get really involved this time as well. They want to offer gym sessions, offer us the sports hall to do badminton sessions if there's space, and various other things as well. So I think it'll be much more
But you're in the right ballpark with the sub £10 ballpark. I can do 25 times 14 rather than reasonable now.
That's important.
Yeah, I think we just need to the point that the upfront costs, the sunk costs of setting up and the ongoing costs. So I think that would just be useful because I've just done the maths here, and obviously some of these are one-off costs, but it's 30 weeks, 7,696, 80 divided by 30 is £265 a week. But that has a lot of sunk costs of recruitment, laptop, which are one-off.
Yeah.
So I think it would just be useful just to that point, just to separate the difference between the setup and the ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the two youth workers and the room hire would be the substantial cost, and then possible any kind of activities or things. But we could look at grants for any extras on top of that.
So then, just to reflect on the proposal on the table such as it is, do colleagues feel that it's appropriate that we divide up those figures as Councillor Pond suggested, or are we broadly happy to vote on the figure presented here to take forward to? I think we're happy. In that case, we go to vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask, sorry, Chair? Just one thing is, we don't want to galvanise what's currently a Sunnyside Brahma. And now I suspect there's not much galvanisation of people moving because it's the other side of town. And that's one of the reasons I think it's good having it there, because it is a different. But have we just checked that how many of the current youth group that are attending the Sunnyside Barn actually reside in that area?
We do have the data of where they're based, and people do travel across town to it.
Yeah.
The majority are local, but they do travel. But the King Centre one is for 13 plus, whereas the Sunnyside is 10 to 13.
Was that the boat? Was 10 to 13?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, apologies. I thought 1 week was.
Lovely. In favour, yes, to vote. In favour.
Thank you.
Carried. It's lovely. In which case, to note the actions list, all actions are completed other than the ongoing investigations in messages. That's very useful. Lovely. That draws to a close.